Welcome back, everybody, to the Inside Texas, whatever we're going to name this show, Nash. We need to come up with a new name for football season because not doing baseball anymore. We are Colt McCoy days away from kickoff in Columbus, Ohio. 12 days away as you're watching this on a Monday here, talking Nash and I. Instead of about baseball, we're getting into the swing of football things. Before we do that and talk about some of the things we're really liking that we've heard from Sark and the players around training camp, you got to go over to Inside Texas, which is the best place in the world to go and find Texas Longhorns and just general college football content. But of course, right now you're keyed in on Texas football with the approach coming of 12 days away. Get Inside Texas for $1 for your first week. And as a bonus, your membership includes a complimentary year to The Athletic. And of course, after that, you need to go over to our description and look up Paul Wadlington's Thinking Texas Football book. If you want a paperback, if you want it online, it doesn't matter. You need to be reading this book if you want to know about Texas football, recruiting, this new class, the SEC in general. Paul has been almost omnipresent about some of the stuff that's been happening in the SEC because he already was talking about it 2 months earlier in this book. So make sure you go check out this 2025 Longhorn Football Prospectus. It's the best thing to do. And of course, Inside Texas is a site. Nash, we're going to talk about some things we like, some things we don't like. There's a few more things I like coming into the year that I've heard just from Sark, going to all his media availabilities, talking to the players. In general, just things that are positive about this team because we're getting a lot of talk, not a lot of play yet. So let's talk about this talk. First, my number one point that I've really enjoyed to hear is the wide receiver room's growth because you entered this offseason and it was young and inexperienced. It was Wingo, who was just a freshman last year, DeAndre Moore, who had started, and then a lot of question marks. Was it going to be a true freshman starting? How are Aaron Butler and Parker Livingston going to look? And then you do add Emmett Mosley from Stanford, but what you've heard is that even though Mosley's been added, Parker Livingston's been stepping up enough where he is probably going to be the starter come week one against Ohio State. He and Mosley are the 3 and 4 of this group. Ryan Wingo and Arch Manning's connection is fantastic. He's already scoring touchdowns in scrimmages and in practice. DeAndre Moore's as good as ever. Jack Endry's at tight end seems to be a really solid addition. And then that backups, there's so much talent back there. What's your read on this receiver room? Because I've been so impressed for how we've heard so much good news about it with like very little pushback on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really pumped up about this receiver room. I think that this might be the first 1,000-yard receiver room that the University of Texas has had.
Dang.
I mean, Arch Manning has the ability to get the deep ball. We all know that. So the chunk plays are going to be there. And I think that you're going to see Arch Manning spreading the ball out a lot more. One thing that really, has a lot of, I'm really pumped up about hearing about this is it's not just, one day he's having an amazing connection with Parker Livingstone. And then the next day he's having an amazing connection with Ryan Wingo. And that's just one of these things where Texas is going to be one of these wide receiver rooms where if you shut down one wide receiver, well, guess what? There's 2 or 3 more that you got to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you're gonna see days where a Parker Livingstone is under 100 yards, and then Ryan Wingo might get to around 100 yards, and then you got DeAndre Moore. He's like sitting there with 150 or 200 yards, like because he's been hit a few times on some deep balls. And you've seen that's another thing is last year, looking back to when Arch Manning actually got on the field. Yes, Parker Livingstone and Ryan Wingo weren't necessarily on the field as much when this was happening, but Arch Manning was targeting DeAndre Moore frequently, and so there's some rapport there. And then
Mississippi State
the whole thing about Parker Livingstone and Arch Manning being roommates, that is a legit thing. Like that's just legit. It's the same reason why you tend to see baseball teams, they like to room their shortstop and second baseman together.
Mm-hmm.
You want them an extension of their that's an extension of their hand. But I'm really pumped up hearing all the stuff about the wide receiver room because this is the other thing is you got him and Mosley flying underneath the radar, and this is a really, really talented dude coming from Stanford. So for him to be able to as a freshman generate the target share that he did with a guy like Alec Eiermanner, who's I think right now currently running with the ones in Tennessee for the NFL. So, I mean, these are the types of little nuances and stats that you want to see with wide receivers. But I'm pumped up. I think that we got without even counting the freshmen that have come in that are there's going to be superstar freshmen that just come in. That happens every single year. Without counting them, we got 4 wide receivers that I feel like we can trust.
And you entered last year with this kind of whole idea of we're going from 3 receivers to 6. We've got so much depth, new transfers, freshmen that are showing out. And then quickly you get into the season and one of them's off the team. One of them's injured for most of the year. Silas Bolden's really only kind of gadget guy. And suddenly you have 3 players and one of them's going to go to the NFL next year. One of them's just a true freshman. But now we talked with Sark today and I asked him about who these kind of next guys up are. And it almost feels 7 deep right now with where it's at because Ryan Niblett's this flex. Keelan Robinson is he a running back? He's a wide receiver. He plays wide receiver for Texas, but he's going to be playing in these 21 packages. Dalen McCutcheon and Khalil Lockett are way ahead of schedule as freshmen. They're not going to be Wingo because they don't need to be Wingo as much this year, but they are there. They will play against Ohio State, I believe. And then you have 4 guys in front of them, all with very different skill sets. That's what's important for me. You have Livingston, the deep threat. You have Wingo, this all around, really good. I think he's going to play the Z in this offense, but the Z kind of operates as your number one in this spread that Sark does. Moore and Mosley can play both inside and out, so they can play in 12, they can play in the slot, they can play outside. There's just so much going on with this receiver room. I think that's the best part, is that, as Sark likes to say, very versatile.
Yeah,
I think we're going to unless you got any other takes on that?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, the versatility and like when it comes to the freshmen, I think that honestly the Ryan Wingo comparison is pretty good because last year, he was in a very similar situation where now Matthew Golden was nowhere near the wide receiver that he was earlier on in the year. So Ryan Wingo got used a little bit more. But, I mean, when you look at the wide receiver, like we just didn't have to use Ryan. The fact that Ryan Wingo was out there was like kind of like that, like I was saying earlier, you're going to find those freshman studs every single year. There's just going to be freshmen that are going to earn their way on the field. And especially with this, and that's one of the things I think is one of the best things for recruiting with Steve Sarkisian is every single year he can point to a freshman that says, "Yeah, I mean that cat can play. He's getting on the field, right?" Like I don't care about seniority over here.
I think Dadian McCutcheon and Khalil Lockett are going to force their way out on the field more so than just have to come on. They're good players. We're going to go to my first dislike right now, and I'm starting with this one because it almost feels like with what we talked about with Sark today, which you're going to hear more on later tonight on IT Live. It almost seems like it might not be as much of an issue right now, but pre-snap penalties are something that Sark wants to alleviate as much as possible for this Ohio State game. It's one of his kind of core 4 fundamentals that he wants to make sure are looking good. And yeah, it sounded like Brandon Baker was continuing that Cam Williams line of work where a lot of pre-snaps. Now, is that because he's going against Colin Simmons, or is that because he's maybe not as fundamentally sound on the pre-snap as possible? Because Sark moves his players around. There's emotion on every play. You're starting in the slot. You're ending up on the other side of the field going towards the boundary. Whatever it is, there's something that's a little bit complicated in this offense. So I'm hoping that with this young offense, it's not a problem pre-snap, that Wingo knows what to do ahead of the snap. Parker Livingston, if he needs to run into motion, the offensive lineman, 4 new starters this year. But if that is a problem, I'm very scared for how that looks in Columbus in the shoe with that crowd, because it got to them against Michigan very early on when that crowd was a part of the game. You remember that first drive when Cam Williams has the false start and Viewers has to make a good throw down the field to Isaiah Bond and makes an amazing catch. And if talent's not there on the team, then suddenly you're 3 and out and Michigan fans are all over you. So I'm looking to see how that develops into the game against Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, beyond that, there was also a holding penalty that wiped off that first drive off the board. So this is just one of those deals where, I mean, last year with Cam Williams, like I'm not trying to dog on dude, but there's unacceptable and then there's just piss poor, like cannot happen ever again. And that's the amount of pre-snap penalties that we had last year, the amount of times that we were penalized on the right side of the offensive line. It's just, these are drive killers. And honestly, it's probably Texas might not be. Looking back, like thinking back to the Ohio State game, I can think of probably 1 or 2 off the top of my head, if I'm remembering correctly. And these are the types of plays that, maybe if Texas doesn't have this drive get killed, maybe Texas goes on and wins the game. Maybe Texas goes on and plays for national championship. So these are just these types of plays that you don't know. Like right now in the season where we're at, we don't know if whatever penalty is going to pop up is going to completely derail a drive or not. But it has the chance to, and that's why you never want to run into it. And hearing pre-snap issues is never a good thing. Right? You're gonna, like, we're trying to find positives out of it. And I think you mentioned one of those positives is, I mean, like this is, I was really confident in last year's defense, and even before the defense had played, I was already really confident, even more confident in this year's defense. And if my confidence is correct, I mean, this defense is going to be a top 10 defense in the last 25 years of college football.
Yeah,
Last 26 years. I mean,
that's a take right there.
This is like last year's defense was really, 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 really good. Like I don't think people understand. Like they weren't just really good. They were like top
Very.
1 percentile of defenses
Yeah.
in the 20 and like in modern day college football, where you see dudes out there, taking a snap from the shotgun, things like that. Like when people think of those great Alabama defenses, from the early teens, like that's the level of play that last year's team was at. So if this year can improve upon that, I mean, these offensive linemen, I don't think that they're going to have another defense to this level they'll play against all year long. Ohio State's going to be a really good defense, but how many defensive players did Ohio State just lose to the draft? And then not just draft, but, undrafted NFL players. So, and then on top of that, you add in, now Matt Patricia, to his credit, the one time that he did face Steve Sarkisian, he won. Yeah, they won 24-7. The Patriots beat the Falcons, but and ironically, it was one of these games where like their statistics are like almost literally the same in almost every single category except for the score. They just didn't punch the ball in the end zone. But all that to say, I mean, this is just one of those deals where, is it? You try and find the positives. Like, is it just they're going up against the hardest team they'll have to play against, or is there legit issues that we really, really need to, get ironed out because I think that you can afford a loss to Ohio State. You can't afford losing to Georgia, to Florida, to Oklahoma down the road, or to A&M at home. You got to those things can't be an issue in these games later on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it was something that against Michigan, Cam Williams had 4 penalties. And, is Baker going to be that bad? Probably not, honestly. Just purely on the penalty side of things, there's a special team penalty as well.
Just by the roll of the dice.
Yeah, I mean, I had to do that research. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. It was more than 2 for sure. I'm going to go over the next one. Now, I'm going to have you hear that knock on wood, Nash? Aggressive knock on wood. The health of the team right now is very good. Now, Andre Kojo is out for the year, but think about where we were at this time last year. And I wanted to actually come up with the date, and I believe it was the 13th of August, so 5 days ago last year. Christian Clark goes out for the year. CJ Baxter was already out for the year. You're down a starter and a backup in the same position. Generally, the team was decently healthy. I think Michael Taff had a hand surgery over the offseason that he was still recovering from, but generally outside of that, it wasn't bad. But it's not only that Texas isn't having these long-term injuries, it's that players that have been injured, Baxter and Clark and Derek Williams, are apparently looking really good. Williams seems to be the one that maybe most is a step behind where you would expect him to be at this point non-injury, but like Christian Clark's got Superman level regenerative skills. CJ Baxter looks great. He's not even sure if he's going to play with a brace this year, so that's a good sign. And then this last weekend, Wisner, McDonald, Gooseby get hurt, and he tells us today Wisner and McDonald are back practicing. We're being cautious with Gooseby, which basically tells you we can't afford to have him get hurt. So it sounds like he's going to be completely fine. So at the moment, the Texas team is very healthy, which is what you want heading into Ohio State, who already has a starter out for the year. And Edric Houston, I believe is his name, a true sophomore defensive tackle who is going to start. That's their worst position. So their worst position is already worse than they thought it was going to be. So that's good news for Texas, though you don't want to root for injuries. And generally, it's good news overall that Texas is pretty healthy.
Yeah, last I checked, we got 2 weeks of football, so there's a lot of time for injuries to pop up, and this is just one of those deals where you want to see a healthy team, but injuries are going to happen in fall camp. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose dudes. Like I can think back to year 1 under Steve Sarkisian, we lose Troy O'Meara, and then that actually allows Xavier Worthy to go out there and have the season that he does, and then we get Troy O'Meara back, and then we're in an open practice. He goes down again, all right, and then you lose Isaiah Nayor, so this is one of those deals where also too. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that turf. Let's get some grass in there. Okay,
Actually,
let's reduce some of these injuries here. But nevertheless, I mean, as of right now, I like the health of the team. Right, it's really good. But I'm not going to really talk too much on this because I don't.
that's fine.
I'm not just a little stitious. I'm superstitious.
He's very stitious. Generally, this team does have the depth that can withstand an injury per room, especially on the defense. There's guys who you're hoping can play that just won't be able to because of how deep the team is. But what I'll go to first on the defense is the defensive tackle room depth is just fantastic. But on the offensive side of things, which we're going to start with something we don't like first, I don't love the offensive line's depth. And that's one of my two big concerns heading into the year is how are they looking without Kojo? Because he was maybe going to start. Probably not. It seemed like Baker was going to be the guy at the right tackle. But do they have a seventh offensive lineman at this point? Teams want 8. Texas usually uses 7 just by how many injuries come about. Ohio State last year had to use about 9. So do they feel good about their 7th guy? Do they have a backup guard? Right now we know our starters and that Connor Robertson is going to be a center and that Cole Hudson will be the backup guard because Robertson will come in at center. Either way, Jaden Chapman is the current guy who's gotten some praise from Sark as the OT3. There's also freshman Nick Brooks, but I'm very concerned what happens if a tackle goes down this season, having to see Chapman or maybe Cole Hudson goes over to tackle, something like that. I'm not looking forward to it when it happens because it will happen. Injuries do happen. But what's your read on this backup tackle room and where your confidence is at if something like that were to happen?
I hope it's against a nothing burger team if we ever have to play
San Jose State.
It's one of these deals where I don't know if I just lost my. Oh, sorry, my whole computer just shut down. Just
You're
cut
good
that
for
out.
now.
It's one of these deals where the lack of experience is what scares me. It's not even much like the talent and like, hey, is this dude able to cut it and run with these dudes? It's just a matter of like offensive line is one of these positions where you need experience. And right now, the only returning experience that Texas has is DJ Campbell. Yep. So this is one of these deals where, we really need like a healthy Connor Robertson. Cole Hudson, I have full trust in Cole Hudson to come in and, step up into one of those center or guard positions if need be. But like you said, the tackle position, I mean, once we lost Coho, you're dipping into the third deep if you lose more than one tackle. It's not a pretty situation that Texas is in right now on the offensive line. But good news is defensive line's looking a lot better.
Yeah, I was just about to say before we go over to that, if you see Gooseby out, like we said, he's not playing right now. He's probably going to be playing by the end of the week practice. It's partly also because they need Chapman and Brooks to be able to play on that first team. Now, Sark did say today that Connor Stroh, who's a backup guard, has been one of the best developmental pieces of the team this past year. First guy he mentioned, best development over the past year. And he's one of those flood, big dude, get him on campus, develop him. He maybe could play guard for this team, but that's just a we'll see. I already went ahead of schedule and jumped our list, but already talked about it. You said it too. Defensive tackle, man. This was the position coming to the offseason that you go, this is going to be bad for Texas. They've lost 6 straight NFL guys over the last 3 years. And the bad recruiting of Bo Davis and just not developing players has kind of caught up with them. The only ones on the roster were Alex January and Melvin Hills, and some freshmen, of course. Then you go out and add 5 guys from the portal. And then, these days, one of my main opinions is if you have to add from the portal, means it's not probably going to be very good. But, man, Hero Canoe seems to be a leader and a true just grit and grind kind of guy, a favorite in the weight room. Travis Shaw is the one that seems inconsistent but has the highest ceiling. Barad Watson is going to be a pass rusher for this team. Alex January is going to be a good pass rusher for this team. Cole Brevard is built like a bowling ball. I saw someone say on Twitter. They just have so many guys, and they're going to have this hockey-style shift rotation of 2, then 2, then 2. They're three deep of 6 players is going to be really good, and that's nice to hear that when you're going against Ohio State in the shoe, you can just churn these guys out. They don't need to play more than 5 snaps at a time. They're in and out a ton, and there's not going to be a lot of drop-off, and that's not something I thought I'd be saying 5 months ago about this team.
Yeah, and it's not just they've done a really, really good job of not just bringing experience, but bringing in talent, and then also a lot
Mhm.
of it for depth. Like you mentioned, I mean, you got Cole Brevard, who I believe came from Purdue. Barad
Yep.
Watson, was he from Maryland? He was either
Ron
visiting
Watson was
Maryland.
at Syracuse.
He was at
Levon
Syracuse.
Johnson
He
was
was
at Maryland.
visiting Maryland, and he cut it. Said, "I'm coming to
Yep.
Texas."
Yep.
And then you got Levon Johnson, Hero Canoe. I mean, like they brought in some legit transfers, and these are guys that all could play like a healthy amount of snaps for Texas. Then you
Yep.
add in, okay, hey, we got Melvin Hills, who he's been kind of developing on the back burner. He's not going to be a guy that you see as much, but the guy that you're going to see that kind of is the homegrown talent and literally homegrown is Alex January.
Definitely.
I believe his dad also played for Texas. Like this is legacy player that it means a little bit more for this dude. Grew up, probably loving the Longhorns,
Mhm.
and this is what I mean. You go through the three deep, you're just going to be able to, mix and match and find which defensive lineman you want. But even more so, I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is last year's goal line defense for Texas was fantastic.
Elite.
And I think that if you were to say that going into the season after having lost, a guy like Byron Murphy, having lost a guy like Devondre Sweat, people would have called you a crackhead, right? Even if because all you're doing is you're bringing in Bill Norton and
Yeah. Jermaine
Jermaine
Lole,
Lowell, right?
TSMA, who didn't play.
You're bringing in them to replace those two guys. So you're saying that hey, these two dudes are at that level.
And Vernon
Well, it's just
Broughton.
Vernon Broughton's a dog.
He's great.
We won't go into that because I'll take this into a 50-minute Vernon Broughton episode. But nevertheless, and then also Alfred Collins. I mean, but there were some dogs on this defensive line last year, and you saw that happen versus Texas A&M. I mean, Bill Norton just absolutely destroys that play. And
Yep.
then you got that allows Ethan Burke to come in untouched, and
Norton
Ethan
against
Burke
Clemson as
goes
well.
in, and then the rest is history. A&M say goodbye to A&M, right? Well, Texas is in a really. I mean, you got a situation where if we need to, hell, throw Cole, throw Travis, throw Levon, throw Hero,
The
throw
fourth
them all
lineman
out
out
there. I
there.
don't give a damn, man. Like, I mean, put them all out there. Let's stop some plays. Like, I mean, I'm really excited about this defensive line and even like the short yardage situation, what it means to the short yardage situations. Because like I think that like I mean I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. It's just we have a three deep guy you can trust. And like you
Yep.
said, I love the sound of hearing that hockey style rotations are coming with this because I mean it just sounds like, hey, you're just gonna offensive teams, the offensive line, they're just gonna be pissed off because they're just gonna have because this also can kind of be I'm not sure if you were going towards this later on, but when you go to the edges too, the edge room's
Yeah.
deep, right? So you're able to go, hey, if Colin Simmons is starting, to just they have those monitoring deals where they're able to see exactly how much energy level the dude's dropping per play. If you see Colin Simmons' energy level dropping, throw Vasek out there and just
Yep.
let those offensive linemen have a horrible day.
It's going to be so great to see in Austin this amount of beef. By the way, I mean two guys over 340 and Shaw and Brevard as those right in front of the center, in between the guards and the two tech position
Gap pluggers.
players. Yeah, they are. And really quickly before break, I'm leashing you to a sentence here, Nash. Name me your two starters for Ohio State, or just like the two guys you think this year will be kind of the separators of the group, the main two guys.
I think you just got to start Hero Canoe just for that little bit of pettiness, and then I'm gonna go Cole Brevard.
I like that prediction. We're gonna hear from Josh Holden before we get back to this list.
Hi guys, sorry to interrupt, but if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, you need to contact Josh Holden. The Metroplex is massive, and the local real estate market is full of nuances and subtleties only an experienced agent like Josh can help you navigate. From Preston Hollow to Highland Park, Uptown to Old East Dallas, Josh will be there to guide you through the process of buying or selling your home. Now, Josh is a UT grad, a lifetime Texas Ex. He's reliable, savvy, and from a personal perspective, he's a really great guy to chat with. So why don't you give him a call and chat with him today about your real estate needs in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. His number is 972-917-8081. That's 972-917-8081. Or you can reach him at his website, which is joshholdenrealestate.com. All the contact details are in the description below. Thanks so much. And back to the show.
Thank you, LC and Josh, as always. Yeah, what were you going to say, Nash?
I have a theory about LC.
Yeah.
That's Andy grown up from Toy Story. That's the adult room from Andy. Like the clouds and the cowboy hat. I always see that room and I'm like, it reminds me of Toy Story. It's like Andy grew up and he's got the skull on the hat on the wall and all that stuff. Now he's, I don't know, just a little thought, but love LC's a little plus.
We'll have to pitch that to him the next time we talk to him. We're going to stick to the defense for a little bit here because most of this is going to be positive. We're going to have one more negative thing I want to talk about because this Texas defense has a pretty locked-in starting group of players. You know, you have your defensive line, which is it's going to be whoever you want it to be, but it's going to be someone good. Simmons and Burke. You've got Hill at linebacker and pick your poison of the next three that can play there. Taff, Muhammad are going to start in the secondary. You want to have Gilbo, McDonald, Williams out there all the time, but this starting star spot, Nash, which is what Texas uses as a nickel, for those aren't familiar, to use this word star, that nickel cornerback plays a lot in the modern era. They are going to play a ton of football, and it doesn't seem solidified yet, and I want it to be solidified, and I think it should just be Jelani McDonald. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that, but for this Ohio State game, let's have Jelani McDonald start there so your best five is out there the majority of the time. It could be Jalen Gilbo if they let Kobe Black outside more with Gilbo on the inside, given that you're going to be playing against Smith, Tate, Innis. I don't want to see true freshman Grayson Littleton start against Ohio State. And he may be great, and he may be the number 2 star this year and a matchup-dependent guy who's great. But I want to just hear them say, we like Jelani as our star this year. I don't know how you're feeling about this room, but that's my take on it.
I think that what's going to happen is they're just going to have to stick somebody there that maybe that player doesn't want to be there full time.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you just got to go out there and beat Ohio State, and then we can worry about all these, little nuances and things like that. So I agree with you a lot right there, right? You don't want Grayson Littleton out there, but now if Littleton's out there and he's just balling, I mean, hey,
it's even better for the team.
We got a dog, like I'm pumped, right? But I mean, it's just one of these deals where you got to find a way. You got to find a way to be able to get Michael Taft, Derek Williams Jr., and Jelani McDonald all on the field at the same time. That is a dangerous defensive back. And then you add in Malik Muhammad and a Jalen Gilbo. Now, something that I like about Jalen Gilbo is, I mean, I would honestly be okay with Jalen Gilbo getting some run at the nickel. Why? Because he's been experienced. So one, he played against Ohio State there last year.
Yeah.
7 months ago. So this is one of those deals where I think that you're going, and honestly, I think that over Jelani McDonald, I would probably lean, if it were my decision, I would lean putting Gilbo over there just because he has the experience. He he spent all last season there. He spent more.
Yep. Was going to be the starter years ago.
He knows the calls. He's going to know that as well as anybody on the team does. And I know everybody's, at this point they're supposed to know what they're supposed to know the entire playbook, all the positions, all that, cliche stuff that gets said. But there's a different level when the bullets are flying, right? When things are going around and things hectic, right? Maybe a dude motions the way that you didn't think it was going to, right? How does the communication happen? I value all those times that Jalen Gilbo was on the field. I value having that versus Ohio State, especially when you're going to be in an environment go back to what the Texas players were saying from the previous time, right? When we were there in 2005. There's a 1 versus 2 matchup. They're sitting there saying you couldn't think inside your head, right?
Yep.
You couldn't hear if a dude was 3 inches away from you, you wouldn't be able to hear him because the sound was so loud. So it's one of those deals where I think that we're going to need that past experience there. But I am a little. I would be worried if we had Grayson Little out.
PK and Sark have talked a lot. To expand one more bit on this, because this is my last thing I don't like. That shows you how mostly positive this has been in camp so far. They've talked about how so much this defense, the versatility helps them start players depending on matchup. And one of the big ones I remember is Jelani McDonald playing a lot in the star against Vanderbilt because it's just Pavia and Stowers. You want someone big who can stop the run because that's the only threats they have on that. They're going to go against Florida, who has basically one receiver, and he's their best receiver, and he's in the slot. And then you're going against Oklahoma in back-to-back weeks, who they're going to air raid. They want their slot receiver to go out in slot phase. They're going to want to throw the ball deep. I think that's when you can say, hey, Grayson Littleton, if you're ready, Florida kid, we'll throw you into the fire in Ben Griffith and say, hey, we need the best coverage guy these next 2 weeks. If you can show us you can do that, we're going to let you play deeper into the season and let you play based on matchups. I just don't think that's what it should be against Ohio State. And I like your take on Gilbo being there. And in a perfect world, he's just really good, and Kobe Black's really good, and that locks up Smith and Innes and Tate. But I want to see Littleton play later on in the season. I don't think he should be a super, super big contributor in this game. Let's talk about the defense in general here, Nash, because we're going to end with two positives here. One's more about personnel. One's more about just a group thing as a whole, as a team. You have about 4 or 5 players on this defense where they are just starting. You want them to play as many snaps as possible. They are your best players. Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Michael Taft, and I'm going to throw Manny Muhammad in there. Those are your core 4. Then at 7 other positions, your 2 deep looks really, really good for who can play for this team. Sark said they had 15 to 16 starters on this team right now. I would venture out to say they have 20 on this defense of guys who are starting level players, would start at other SEC or Power 5 schools. And we can run down the list. But before we do that, just what's your take on how many players on this defense can truly be high impact, not just against San Jose State, but play against Florida, Oklahoma, Georgia, and really be important players on this team? How deep does it go for you?
It goes pretty damn deep, dude. I mean, like we already talked about the nose tackle and defensive tackle, and that ironically, like that was the one thing. It's like, hey, if there's going to be an area that Texas, we're not as good of a defensive team as we were last year, it's because we didn't go out and get the defensive tackles that we need, because we're getting pretty thin on that position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at the edge positions.
Yeah.
Ethan Burke, Colin Simmons, Colton Vasek, Zena Umuzulu, and then you go, then now all of a sudden you can start getting into, oh, hey, by the way, 5-star Justice Terry, 5-star Lance Jackson, right? Like, yeah, that's where the talent is that might start on other teams on the 3 deep, right? And then you go to linebacker. You got Anthony Hill, Leon LaFau, Anthony Smith, Brad Spence Jr., Trey Moore, like, and then you got the guys that like an Elijah Bo Barnes, freshman that might be able to come up and get some depth, like similar to how like a Ty Anthony Smith did it last year.
Yeah. Don't talk
then
about Anthony, man.
Then
get excited.
Then safety's the one that's like, dude, like I know I'm not sitting here. I'm not asking for it. I don't want this, because these are all like these. First off, big Texas fan. Y'all haven't figured this out, but these are also really good dudes, and I just don't want them to have to personally go through this. If there's a room that we can sustain an injury at, it's safety. I mean, how many times can you bring in a 5-star player on the caliber of a Jonah Williams, and he's been held out by hamstring, right? But do we even really care, right? Do we really even care? Because he wouldn't be getting that much snaps if he was healthy. Like the amount of run that he would be getting he'd probably be doing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, you go and look at it, like Michael Taft, Xavier Flassame. Then you got Jordan Johnson Rubel, Jelani McDonald. You got Jonah Williams. Zalus Hicks is a dude that like.
Yeah.
What I've learned in my time is if a dude reclassifies and leaves high school early, he's probably pretty good. Like he just a little. He's probably gonna be punch, Then you add in the guy that I didn't mention right there, Derek Williams Jr. I mean, like we got like 9 safeties that we could actually go say, hey, we can trust you to go out there and play some football. And then on top of that, that's where you also go look at the guy that we have coaching the safeties right now.
Dwayne Aquino.
And what is he known for? He's known for, don't call my safeties or cornerbacks. They're defensive backs.
They do both.
We're going to cross train. You're going to play everything. So that's where, if we somehow got to where we lost 4 safeties, maybe a Grayson Littleton, plays over there.
Or Gilbo
maybe
back there.
maybe you get some maybe you get some movement in the defensive back room, and I don't know. It's one of these deals where you'd have to damn near lose an entire team for Texas before you start worrying about the safety depth.
Yeah, Aquina cross coaches nickel and safety in practice. That makes sense. I'm going to go through how I got to 20 because I did this on Eric Nolin's post when he wrote about this 15 to 16 starter thing, and I kind of challenged Sark almost and saying, I think you got more than that. So defensive tackle, you've got 5 guys. I think Levon Johnson might be kind of the odd man out of this group because he was battling injury in camp, but Shaw, Brevard is kind of your noses. Canoe is this D-end hybrid. January and Watson as these tackles who are going to move the pocket, push in. Then at edge rusher, Simmons, Burke, Vosick. I'm going to stop it there just for now, just to prove a point almost. We're at 8 already. Then you have these 2 edge hybrid guys in Moore and Spence, Spence started last year at an SEC school. Moore started last year for Texas. They are starting level players. That gets you to 10. Hill, LaFau, and then I'm going to throw Ty Anthony Smith in there because, as IT has reported, he is pushing to be a starter on this team. He is pushing for Leon LaFau's starting spot, and he's also probably the Sam linebacker when they go in base. So he is there. He is a real contributor this next season. We're at 13 already. We haven't gone to the secondary. Then you have your core 5 of Taft, McDonald, Williams, Muhammad, and Gilbo. That's 18. And then I'm going to throw Littleton and Kobe Black in there to get you to 20 because Littleton's already pushing to be a starter. Kobe Black's already pushing to be a starter. I've named 20 guys on the defense. That's almost enough to play an 11-on-11 against each other. I haven't named Zeno Umeozulu, who's probably the number 2 buck rusher behind Colin Simmons. That's just a pure pass rush guy. Warren Roberson, who will play as the CB4. Either of the backup safeties who you mentioned in J.J. Arfils-Fizeme, and all these other 5-star freshmen, Cade Phillips, Lance Jackson, Justice Terry, Jonah Williams. If you add all of that, we're up to like 27 or 28. Think about how insane that is to have a defense like that. It's absurd that they have this level.
And then not only that, too, you add in there's the guys like a Wardell Mack and a Santana Wilson who
and you mentioned
last year they were these freshmen that come in and they're going to provide legit depth. Like these are Santana Wilson and Wardell Mack. These are the guys that people are going to look up and go, wait, they're starting, and like next year, the year after, they're going to be like, wait,
I don't remember them.
I don't remember these guys being on the team, right? But Wardell Mack, I mean, for people that may remember him, he was the guy that Colorado State, he secured Texas to be able to, get that shutout victory with the interception. That was one that that was one of the more athletic interceptions I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, he really laying out full extension and then just dropping that toe in there on the back end zone. I love to see that, but he just going through this depth, looking at it. I mean, this is a really, really deep defense, and it's one of those deals where, like you talked about the hockey style changes earlier, like line changes.
Mm-hmm.
Offenses, they're going to be in hell playing Texas because they're going up against every single down. It's going to be virtually a fresh dude versus this team is and then so this is one of those deals where if Texas can hold teams to, if we can avoid limiting explosive plays like we did last year, I mean, this is one of those teams that offense is having to grind down the field. It's going to be a double-edged sword. Yeah, did you score? Cool. But how much energy did you just drain your team of? So I think Texas is going to be one of those teams that, like, early on games, they might look a little bit more competitive than they actually are. And then late, it's going to be exasperated by having you just fresh bodies out there in every play after play after play.
I think 30 players play between the defensive line and secondary this year. That doesn't even count the linebackers. We're going to go to our final one. We're already past that 40-minute mark. We just love talking. Sorry, guys. This one's more of a macro thing. The overall team holistically, Sark said something that surprised me, is that the intensity of this year's team in practice is already higher than in years past. Probably the most he's ever had. And yeah, you can say it's because they know week one what it means, and it's going to be Ohio State. yeah, you can say anything about who the leaders are of the team in Taft and Manning, but the fact that everyone just generally has this intensity and this draw to want to compete against each other, against the teams in the future, I just love what I'm hearing about that because it shows that they're ready. This team is 2 weeks away and they're already ready for this game.
Yeah, I think that this just kind of comes down to culture, right? Like, and it's one of these cliche deals, but when you have your best players, working their tail ends off, I mean, what happens is the younger guys, they see that and they're like, okay, well, I got to do that now, right? So you got to Colin Simmons out there doing that. And Colin Simmons was that young guy last year, but he watched the guys like a Baron Sorrell go out there, and the blueprint's already been out there. And it's one of these deals where, like, this is when you get good culture in a football program like Texas has right now. The beautiful part is it maintains itself as long as the culture, as long as you still have that culture in the building. The young guys, they're gonna be brought up in that culture. They're going to want to do the same stuff that the seniors, that they were taught, unless they're just total shitbags, but then you got a whole team-wide issue, and then that's when you start like talking about, maybe we need to move on from a coach because he doesn't have the pulse on the scene. But from what I've heard, man, this team, I mean, this team is very much one of these teams that if there is a player on the team that starts to, kind of, me, get that me orientation, the team almost kind of pushes them out of the circle, and then they tighten that circle. And I'd love to see these teams that are like this, right? And it's just one of these deals where I say it again. I mean, it comes back to culture, and I think that this is one of these things that we can continue to expect. I mean, you got a Michael Taft. I mean, Xavier Xavier, he's going to be Jonah Williams. They're going to be brought up, and in 2 to 3 years, they'll be doing the same thing that they're learning right now.
Yep. I'm just so excited for what this team looks like in the future on defense and on offense too. The defense is the one that really highlights, but
let's worry about 2025 first.
Yeah, but that's all I was just gonna say. It's just right now it's still awesome, which is what you're so excited about.
It is fun to be like, hey, the future's good.
Here's what it looks like in 26 and 27. Let's focus on 25. We're 12 days away. It's offseason's almost ending, and of course, with that being the case, you need to go over and subscribe to Inside Texas. I'm begging that you do if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, because there's no better place to get all the information that you heard on here, that you hear in writing, you see on Twitter. It's all at Inside Texas and more. You're getting depth chart updates. You're getting quotes from Sarkisian. You're just getting everything you want, recruiting as well. If you join now, you get Inside Texas for $1 for your first week. As a bonus, your membership includes a complimentary year to the Athletic. And then, of course, we've gassed it up so much in the show, but go into the description and order either a paperback or just online an ebook, Thinking Texas Football by Paul Waldington. It's the best place to go for that last minute. I need to read about the Longhorns before the season starts. If you didn't get enough from this, you're going to get everything and more from Paul. That's going to do it for us today. Just $1.
It's all it takes. $1. This thing right here.
He comes with the props, of course. I don't. That's going to do it for us. We need to find a name, Nash. People in the comments, if you made it this far, help us with a name for the show for the football season, because it's Inside Texas Baseball once you come back around. But that's going to do it for Nash and I. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week.